Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. It is May 14th, halfway through the month, 5 days till the Unfucker Gathering in Malta. Oh, we're so excited. Everyone's getting all ready. So, if you missed it, last night I was on Tarrin and I with Dr. Tarrin Lupo. And, 3 hours just was not enough to get through all the shit we wanted to get through. So guess what? I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, threw him in his chair, said, dude, we're going live right now. So I have with me today, Tarrin Lupo. Hi, Tarrin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me come play in your sandbox. This is a lot of fun.
And this is the cursing and swearing sandbox.
Yeah, I know. I want to be bright red the whole time. So go ahead.
I know.
I want to learn all kinds of adult words and I have to wear my earmuffs most of the time in here.
No, it's okay. Like I said, swearing for punctuation is totally acceptable on my show.
your show. Swear away.
Swear away. So, really, really funny. When Tarrin and I tried to set up me going on his show yesterday, which took about 2 months, literally. It was insane trying to get that organized. It was all about, we're going to talk about the Mandela effect. We're going to talk about the Mandela effect. We're going to really dig deep and get into that shit. And 3 hours, I think we talked about the Mandela effect for about 3.5 minutes.
That's about right.
Yeah, give or take. And we got all kinds of stuff. It was a phenomenon. If you missed it, I've put a copy of the video from the live stream from yesterday from Tarrin's account over on the Removing the Shackles YouTube page, so you can catch it there. It's also listed on rts.earth. Really good conversation. We got into the vaccines, the chemtrails. We got into the autoimmune disorders, inflammation. We talked homeschooling. We talked about how totally fucked society is. And we mentioned Mandela effect about 3 times.
That's a good summary. That's about right. I don't know how we spent 2 hours on vaccines, but it just got there.
It just went there. But we kind of, I love the perspectives we shared because everyone brings to the table different perspectives because we all have our own focuses. And when we do research, we focus on specific things. And of course, our training, our background, right? So with your training and background and talking about things like, for example, the inflammation, it's something I've touched on in my research, but only a little bit. So talking with you about it last night was fantastic because it opens another whole area up for discussion that people miss, that people are not aware of. Like saying we think about vaccines, we think mercury, maybe aluminum, we think autism, but we don't think about the other aspects and the effects that it has. So it was a really, really great conversation last night. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. So thank you for having me on. And we're going to talk a little more on, I want to get into the Mandela effect shit this time. I want to talk about some of the physiological changes that we're seeing in our bodies. Things that have had people going, what the fuck? How come my kidneys are there now? My kidneys weren't there before. I swear to God, that's not where I kept my kidneys. So I want to kind of get into that. I had a conversation with the Unfuckers on the Unfuck It show last week, and one of the things we talked about is how many deaths happen in America, well, not just America, England, Canada, you name the place, in hospitals due to medical accidents. they're given the wrong drugs. You know, that was patient A got the drugs for patient B, and oops, sorry, now they're dead because we gave them nitroglycerin, you know. And we toss it off as, you know, yeah, like they got the wrong drugs, or the doctor was overtired, or they just screwed up. But what if some of these deaths are actually attributed to these Mandela effect changes to our physiological structure? I mean, I threw out there talking about the universal blood type, the universal donor blood type. And when we did that massive, massive poll that a friend of mine put together, over 50,000 people, in the end, I think it's been up to 50,000 people answered it. And under that question on the Mandela effect about who was universal blood type, because he is a researcher who did it and a scientist, he had the secondary question, are you a medical professional? And there were 175 medical professionals who answered that question. And it was a 50-50 split between O negative and O positive. So, I mean, that in itself, to me, was just like, whoa. If we're talking, I mean, that's how you can kill someone, give them wrong blood. If you're from the reality I'm from, where O positive is a universal donor, and you have a crash victim, and quick, you need a transfusion, and they throw this, they're O positive, well, that's a universal blood donor. Uh-oh, wait a second.
And I might even trip you out a little more. I remember a time when I was a kid where O didn't have an RH factor. It was just O. There was no positive or negative.
Okay.
And then, you know, when I bring that up, a few people are like, yeah, when did it get a positive and negative? But, you know, later on, I always remembered it as O positive. But I remember as a kid, O didn't have an RH factor. That's why it was universal. You could use it either for anybody because there was no RH factor.
And it's really interesting because someone else had brought that up a couple of weeks ago. And I sat there and went, no fun. Yeah, wait. I do remember, like, you think back to, like, you know, grade 10 science class and going, yeah, it didn't have a positive or a negative. It was just O. So that's really interesting.
That's how you, if you kind of logically play it through, you wouldn't want something that reacts to positive or negative. You'd want something that's inert, that when you put in, it would be the universal donor. They could stick it in anyone. So it kind of makes sense if you think it through like that.
Absolutely. Things like the kidneys have now moved. And you put up, Marlena put up a picture in the Unfuckers group showing, like, the old, where I remember the kidneys being. And we always talk, you know, when you were in sports, it was talking, what's a kidney shot?
Let's see what I can find.
Was not under hence it was called a kidney shot, because it was never protecting them.
I'll screen share a thing I made. I had a video about this that I took down, but you can kind of get a better idea of, these are from 2 different anatomy books. And you can get an idea that the kidney here, you know, first off, you have to know that the kidneys are not level anyway.
No.
You know, your right kidney's a little lower. But you'll notice that even if I drew a line on the rib, only a piece of it would be in. Where here, if we follow the last rib, you can't really see it as well. But you'll see that, you know, almost all this kidney is in. That it is shifted from 1/3 of it to almost all of it up in. And I remember we used to do something called it was a test where you would do a kidney entrap. You would do a move to trap the kidney to see if there were nodules or problems on the bottom part. And you'd have to, like, get the person to push their diaphragm out, and just a piece of the kidney would stick out and you'd trap it. I remember those days. But this is like what I remember learning in high school. This is what I remember learning as a doctor. So it was kind of different. I kind of have to give you a little bit background of that story before I just launch into this. But I figured since you brought it up, I'd drop the picture up.
Well, go ahead now. Hit us. Give us the background to some story here.
Well, so basically, I guess I assume all your listeners know what the Mandela effect is. Or you've talked it to death, probably. With my Mandela effect, when I got into the anatomy stuff, I had first kind of heard people kept bringing it up and was like, what about the old anatomy? And it took a little bit like that. Those memories were kind of blocked. They kind of been shuffled. And then when I started looking at it, I was like, oh yeah. And I got a flood of old memories of what it used to be like. Cause in elementary school, high school, and I even was, I was a biology major in college that we dissected, we had cadavers in college and I spent some time. And that matched the old reality. And then when I shifted to chiropractic school, I spent another, 2 years in a morgue doing dissections and stuff. And in that school, it was the new reality. So between the two, sometime in the 90s, something shifted for me. And what happened was I just assumed that since I was in high school and college, that they didn't really get that deep into things. And that college, and then when I went to my doctoral program, that they were much more accurate with their anatomy. So that's kind of how I just was like, oh, well, maybe they just didn't really know what they were talking about in a college textbook compared to a doctoral program. Maybe they're just a little off. And then there's also the fact that everybody's, no bodies fit exactly a model. Everybody's got weird anatomy, and, cross-cultural black skulls will look different than white skulls and stuff like that. So there is some some differences. That being aside, everything all right?
Yeah. I'm in the door.
So when I went to chiropractic school, it was, I had finished up right at the turn of the century. And the chiropractic school was matching this reality. So when I went to practice, there was nothing different than what it is today. Something shifted in the 90s for me. So now everybody with the Mandela effect kind of shifts at different times, and they have different things. Mm-hmm. So these shifted never really affected my practice. It was more of, well, that's odd. I remember it being like this, and it never really drastically changed stuff. But when I started really tearing the new anatomy apart, because I hadn't dissected a body in a good 20 years, so it's not like something I do every day. But when I started looking at the new diagrams, I was like, man, something's different. And I made a story about it, and I had a ton of other health professionals say, yep, I remember the old reality too. Now, the first question that always comes up is, well, don't you think doctors are going to kill people if the kidneys from this and this? And most of the doctors I talk to have the same memory, that it like shifted for them early before their training. That we learned something, and either we all had a crappy high school textbook that was wrong that we learned from, or we maybe something like that. I don't know, but we all have this different idea. And at first, when I put myself out there, man, I got lambasted. I got torn up by some, and then the other health professionals started quietly contacting me, being like, I wouldn't put myself out there, but I'm glad you are, because I agree with you. And after a while, it was almost about 200 health professionals that had left comments saying, hey, maybe, I don't want to say it publicly, but you're right. So there was some sort of shift between bodies, for sure. So, but for me, like I was saying, it wasn't just like I woke up one day and the kidney was in a different place. It was one set of training was one thing and one set of training was the other. Now, I don't know. I'm sure there maybe is some doctors that are like, wait, why is everybody's kidneys further? Or why is this liver now gigantic? I'm sure that happens, but I think people are scared to death of losing their jobs and aren't really saying anything. I had some health professionals, some nurses tell me they noticed, and they just both gave each other strange looks and just moved on. And it's just like, well, maybe it's an anomaly, or, or also people think that bodies are just a lot more toxic now, so livers are gigantic, so they rationalize an excuse.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we have several health professionals who are on fires. We have quite a few nurses, one of whom at least I've seen is already in the room. And we've had reports, and it's after the last Unfuck It show, literally talking about one of the nurses going to put an airway in someone and totally blowing out the woman's throat. And it happened twice in a row, because now there's a difference in the airway structure.
Where the trachea splits.
Where the trachea splits. It's changed. And she was just literally like, oh my God, like, how could you do that? And then same thing. It's interesting that you bring up, though, about the fact of there is a lot of people think that when we see a lot of this stuff, that it all happens at once. So, for example, during the Mandela effect stuff, it's like it all happened at the same time. And maybe there are a few of those, like maybe some of the more modern things that we've seen that have been like that. But I tend to agree with you that I think that with some people, it's not you can't pinpoint and say, oh, well, this time change happened in 1992, or this one happened in 1997 or 2005. I think it's the person, and it all depends on the person where they've experienced some of these things, right? The thing with the short ribs, for me, that's a relatively fresh change. Like I said, the change in the short ribs and the positioning of your short ribs, right?
Yeah, we can talk about that if you want.
Oh, yeah, well, go ahead. Pull me up a diagram.
All right.
Pull me up a diagram.
I brought lots of diagrams to play with so we can show the team. Okay, so give me a sec to work this cool new magic. So here's the old reality, new reality. And what you're talking about, let me use a little cool annotation button. Hold on. We can draw here. All right, I'll just take you through this as the way I remember it. Now, we're going to talk about more of this, but you'll notice that in the old reality, we look a lot more monkey-like. We have giant scapulas. We have a huge rib cage. And the ribs kind of came all the way up. Now, you did have floating ribs, but all this section here was like cartilage. When they actually touched, but they were cartilage. And your ribs now these days, the rib cage is much smaller, and you have floating ribs.
And they are literally floating ribs.
And they're just in the back, right? Now, and the ribs are a lot smaller. Like the organs all got stuffed from here to all into this cage. They look like an afterthought, and they're crammed. The manubrium is still cartilage. Like, you can have some cartilage in here, and the sternum definitely has a lot of cartilage. Oh, it's not drawing anymore. I don't know why, but darn it, my draw feature disappeared on me.
Your draw feature.
Oh well, I don't know what's going on now. Anyway, so I'll just point at it. The sternum change. It was also cartilage, but so there was a huge change that we had this giant rib cage and then a small rib cage, and also the scapula was much more monkey-like. The collarbones were turned. In the old reality, they were much more like a handlebar. Now they're very thin. And now we have an introduction of the first rib that comes under the collarbone. And the first rib, as a chiropractor, this is a nightmare. This place is always where people have problems that cause their hands and arms to go numb and get adjusted.
Wow.
Here, the first rib's gone. So this is interesting. And then you'll notice the skull differences too. The skull was much thinner. Their eyeballs were there was no bone behind the eyeballs.
Okay.
Like here you have a bone, and we'll talk about that later. I've got better pictures of this. But and the other thing you'll notice is the arms. You can't really see the full, but the humerus is longer in the new reality, but the radius and ulnar are much longer in the old reality, like a monkey. You have much bigger forearms. And I'll show you those others in a minute. So let's stop and talk about where we are on this.
Okay, so let's talk about the ribs, because this is the biggest joke, because I talked about the whole thing with the short ribs, is never before in my life have I made comments like, oh, don't squeeze my ribs. And I joked about that and said, like, when I go to bed and my husband will like put his arm around me and I'll be like, oh, I got my short ribs. I'm sorry, those words have never come out of my mouth for the first at least 15 years of our relationship. But now, the last 3 years, now it's like at least once a week, once every 2 weeks, one or the other, you hug them and you go, oh no, you got my ribs. These words have never, ever come out of my mouth before. I've never experienced this shifting, because now they are literally floating. And if someone, like, you've got little kids and they come up and they hug you and they're just the right height, it's like, holy crap, you're going to break me.
And I, as a chiropractor, a lot of people have problems around that transitional period from their thoracics to their lumbars, and those floating ribs are right there. And it's one of the very careful spots you got to be as a chiropractor. The chiropractic is very, very safe, but there's a couple areas like a floating rib that you can really twist on someone and send quite a shock up them.
Oh, yeah.
So as a chiropractor, we're trained to really be careful around the floating ribs because they're very unstable. They're easy to twist up. They're easy to damage. It just seems like a crappy design. But the thing I noticed, what was also interesting is as a kid, I had always learned men and women had different amounts of ribs.
Uh-huh.
And that changed. So like, the whole Adam and Eve thing, they borrowed a rib and made Eve. I remember that men had less ribs than women. And what's weird is my girlfriend remembers it opposite, that women had more ribs. So we argue about it all the time. That, I was like, well, it's, the scripture thing. If you stole a rib from Adam, he would have one less. The women would have more. And then she's like, no, you got it backwards. So we argue about it constantly. But I remember that being a fact that was taught. Now, yeah. I did not go to a Christian school. I did not, I went to the government secular schools. They taught us men and women have different amounts of ribs. And then that changed in chiropractic school. All of a sudden it wasn't there anymore.
So for example, now you mentioned the rib, this section here, and everyone having these pinched, your hands and arms going sleep. And I am seeing, like never before, over the last 2.5, 3 years, shoulder issues, and continuous for no reason. As in, it's not like you were throwing a baseball and you overdid it that first spring day out throwing the baseball. And my shoulders are really sore. It's not like you've slipped and fallen. There's no reason for it, and you have people developing shoulder. I have 2 totally destroyed shoulders that I'm lucky. I have a husband who actually can adjust my back quite well for me using gravity, but I have issues, and when my hands go numb, I will wake up for days on end with my hand numb, and it will take me a half an hour of kind of doing this in the morning to get feeling into my hand, because it's just the way I've laid. And it's across the board. I actually read an article in a mainstream sports magazine like Sports Illustrated or something like that 2016, summer 2016, saw more rotator cuff injuries in professional sports across the board than ever before. And it wasn't just pitchers. You go a pitcher, he's got a rotator cuff. Okay. No, it was like things like just random sports people, like referees. Hello, the referees. Really, they waved that yellow card just too hard in that game, and it hurt their shoulder. So when I hear this, you start going, okay, what is there's got to be a trigger point. There has to be a physiological, and it could be energetic as well, but I look at the physiological first. What is causing everyone to have shoulder pain all of a sudden?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that, except, as a chiropractor, I have to say that because our society makes you sit 18 hours in a chair in school, and that was not normal 30, 40 years ago. We never sat all day long. We didn't look at cell phones and didn't do this all day long. That stuff takes a massive impact on your posture, and the place that takes the most stress is going to be your lower cervicals and the thoracics, exactly where all the nerves that come out to your arms and hands are. So it wouldn't surprise me because of crappy posture that would exacerbate these numbers. I'm a little hesitant to say all of a sudden we woke up with a first rib that we didn't have before. Now everybody's got arm problems 2 years later. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't know, because for me, those first ribs have been there 20 years. So I don't know. Like why all of a sudden 2 or 3 years ago. I also believe that people are shifting in constantly from different times, and people have multiple shifted. So this is something I'm kind of learning, that we're both right. In your old reality, yeah, that was happening, and not in mine now. So that's what, and if this is by some sort of weird design, the new body is subpar. It's not very, like, some of the things don't make a damn bit of sense.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I said. It's like, okay, look, if you're going to give us an upgrade, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But this is not an upgrade.
I don't feel it is. There's theories that
not an upgrade.
They're trying to give us maybe a bigger liver so we can handle the amount of toxic crap in our bodies and not die. And so in order to do that, they had to cram all the other organs and stuff all over the place. So I don't know. Maybe that makes sense if that's an upgrade, but there's some weird stuff. I mean, you want to talk about, give me a body part, we'll go into it. No, we got, your choice is the skull.
Yeah, let's talk.
We could talk about internal organs, the brain. Okay, skull. You want skull stuff?
Skull, because
I got skull stuff for you.
Just because that I only discovered and it came by in someone else's video talking about Mandela effects in the skull. I guess it was like last summer, and I went, "What? There are no holes in my skull. What the hell are you talking about? My skull's not shaped like that. I know it wasn't."
Now, some people will say, wait, where's it's back here. Okay, this one. All right, so these are two different anatomy books, and some people will say, like, hey, you're looking at a black person and a white person's skull. I kind of disagree with that on some aspects that I do believe. When I was younger, it was the old reality skull. Skulls looked more rounded, like this picture. This is maybe a little older of an anatomy book. And then the new skull looks a lot more alien. It you got a huge bulbous, and the frontal lobe seems to have been kind of pushed in. Like, it's like they took our frontal cortex away and gave us more reptile brain. It's like less thinking brain, more reptile. Sort of. I mean, to me, it kind of, the skull shape's like that. But if you notice, there's all kinds of things. As a chiropractor, this is so tiny, but what really annoys me is the styloid process, which is this thing. As a chiropractor, I'm constantly adjusting the atlas bone, and the styloid process usually sits right on the transverse process. And in the new reality, it's like a joke. Look how big this thing is. It's huge on here. And also the mandible is a lot more square and bigger. The ramus of the mandible is much different. Like, my girlfriend's a hygienist, and it's just weird to her to see that. Like, she just doesn't get it. Also, the indentation for the temporalis here, not so big here.
Yeah.
This is like a huge dent where the temporalis muscles come through to the masseter. I would think because you have a bigger jaw here, it takes a lot more muscles to use it. I guess we eat more than we used to. I don't know why that upgrades there.
That's
and then the backside.
Really interesting.
Of the skull.
I'll just pause there, Tarrin, just for a second. Because I had never realized that, what you just said about the musculature change. So you're talking in up here from the mass going into the mastoid.
The muscles come here, the masseter muscles.
I do. I was taught by a little old Japanese lady 25 years ago to do cranial acupressure, I guess you would say. And I learned, she taught me like all about when you're dealing with headaches, where to deal with pressure points, how to move them, how to shift them. And I've done this for years and years and years. And I'm seeing a massive amount of headaches here. And they're very, very touch sensitive, like more so than ever before. They're very, very touch sensitive, and you can lead it down, and they're going down where I'm now having to much more time spent doing in here than I ever did 20 years ago. But there's a massive amount of change and a shift, and I had never thought about it until you just said it right now. I've noticed it when I'm working on people. The shifts through here, it's a much more of a muscular headache, if you will, like a topological. It's not you're dealing with nerves, you're dealing with actual muscle work more than just dealing with nerve endings, etc. That's really, really interesting to me.
Well, you want me to keep going on the skull? Yep, I can do some more.
Yeah.
I like. I know we have a few massage therapists in here, and I'm wondering if they do TMJ work. They're like, yeah, man, those muscles are crazy now. All right, so let's look at some more pictures. Okay, so this is the next one. Same idea. But what you can see here better is the sutures. Let me see if I can get this annotate button to work. Do I got annotation? No. Hold on. I'm learning how to use your cool new software here. So the occipital suture here runs horizontal in the old reality. Here, it runs up and down. It's like they added the occiput on here in the back.
Jammed it in the back. Here, just smack that in.
Yeah, just like, hey, we'll just put this anywhere. And it's very odd to me because I do a lot of occipital work and work around the mastoids. And again, they have this huge honking stylus, you know, like this. I'm tongue-tied today. The I can't believe I'm tongue-tied.
It's okay. The doohickey. The doohickey.
Yeah. I can't believe I flanked here for a sec. The yeah, that process is not. It's gigantic. The styloid process. Gosh, man. Styloid process, I mean, here it's practically like touching the jaw because remember the ramus is the jaw. This is like a right angle practically compared to the old reality where it's softer. So this just kind of accentuates more. I just thought the suture was weird. Like, what is going on with the occiput? And I think maybe my next slide or two, we can figure that out. So I'll take a breather for a second if you have any questions before we move into new fun stuff.
Someone just brought up an interesting question. The shifting changes that we're seeing. So like we talked about, there is a very much this shift in the bone structure and musculature right in this area. Are we seeing a shift in the ears? And the question comes up about the ringing in the ears that a lot of people is hearing now. Could it possibly have anything to do with a change in structure of the eardrum, I don't know, location of the eustachian tubes, the skeletal changes? Because of course, you know, if you talk about bone conduction for sound, is there, could that play into it, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, you know, the eustachian tube and the upper cervicals and the occipits, if there's subluxations in that area, that pressure will close those eustachian tubes and cause all kinds of problems. And that's why people have been going to chiropractors for 100 years for ear infections, and they take their little kids, is because to open the eustachian tubes is a big part of it. I don't know, because I don't see anything right off the bat that would say, yes, you know, the atlas is twice the size. Of course it's crushing the eustachian tube. But the occiput does look a little weird, so maybe it's pulling tension. I don't know. It's a really interesting theory. I never thought about it.
Okay, well
done. Kudos to you.
Robert, fucking, that was an awesome question.
Oh, it's Robert. Well done, Robert.
Yeah, I want to think about that, because when you're dealing with sound, the one thing I talked about, bone conduction. If anyone as a kid, if you've ever done the experiment where you put your head together, you touch your foreheads together, and you make sounds, and you can hear the sound through the bone conduction, right?
Right. We use tuning forks.
Yeah, tuning forks.
And put it right on the masseter, and you can.
That fucking hurts if you have like certain things out of place. Yeah, I had a broken jaw and I've had a broken orbital. So the whole tuning fork thing, I kind of have bad memories on that one.
Yeah, that'll hurt if you got a fracture for sure.
A fracture in the orbital, and the guy goes, "Here, let's just check this." Doing, yeah, that's broken. But when we see these kind of things and we talk about sound, then you sit there and you go, okay, wait, that's really, really interesting. And that's almost when you need to get into like a sound technician, someone who deals with like acoustics, who could talk about acoustics. But also eyes, how we see, there's shifts in vision. People are seeing differently, seeing different things. And skeletally, we're seeing that shift, that change in like the fact that now there's bone at the back of your eyeballs. Like what? When the hell did that happen? Yeah,
I mean, maybe it sends a vibration, and I don't know. I do feel in my gut when I pray about this sort of thing, I feel that it is it has to do with the resonance going up, like that the resonance is skyrocketing. And you know, you can start to hear stuff. Some people have such good hearing they can hear at 22 hertz, a low hum. And, you know, the resonance has been up in the 30s and 40s for 6 months. And on Easter Sunday, it got all the way to 90. So, like, you know, maybe they're actually hearing an audible that low hum is amplifying around in the bones and becoming like a tinnitus. I don't know. But it feels more right to me that it has something to do with the frequency.
And I think you're right. And I absolutely, I actually really agree with you on that. I wonder if, I mean, beyond the shifting that we talk about the energetics that are shifting and we're shifting and changing, etc. If we talk about a physiological change, for example, if we were to get a hold of an ear, nose, and throat specialist, would they be able to say, yeah, actually, I remember what, early things, the eardrum is now just, it's a little closer, it's a little farther, and that could be part of the shift that allows us to be able to now suddenly, seemingly, hear these frequencies.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I don't know on that one. It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
possibly.
Definitely one to digging through. Okay.
You want more, or I'll keep going on skulls. Do you want to?
Yep.
We'll keep looking at skulls. All right. Let's talk skulls. Okay. So this one's kind of, people have been talking about this one a long time, but I'll throw it up there. So the old reality, the skulls, I mean, we already talked about the shape, but the eye sockets really bug people. There's some debate because some of the very old skulls, it's all black. There's nothing. And then some of the skulls had much bigger holes compared to this little slit that the nerve goes through. That's way different than this.
Yeah.
So where did this plate come from? And we use kind of, when I was a kid, you'd always watch the old kung fu movies where they would push someone's eyeballs through into their skull and kill them. And because there was no plate, you could just, or if somebody got, an arrow in the eye, it would kill them. But now there's stories of people getting shot in the face and it doesn't kill them. It gets stuck on the, the bullet gets stuck in the plate and stuff like that. And that's not the fiction I remember. I remember that was always, like cool. Karate was cool when you were a kid, Oh, you shot him in the eye.
I had a very special grandfather. I've always been kind of a different kid when I was a kid. I kind of was different from everyone else. So needless to say, I ended up in a lot of fights. A lot.
No, not you. You have such a good temperament.
I know, I'm so sweet and lovely.
You wouldn't. I couldn't see you being a troublemaker. No.
So my grandfather was in British. He was in the Second World War, and he was his Italian's #1 boxer, bare knuckles boxer. And he had stories to tell about some of the boxing matches that he was all the way through the war. So when I got to be about 14 or so, and I got into a huge fight at school, and he had to be the one who got called to come pick me up from the principal's office and all this shit. He was like, he brought me into the garage, and I thought I was going to get the serious dressing down. Oh no, Grandpa's going to be mad. And he was like, okay, I thought it'd be about time that I taught you how to fight. And my grandpa taught me how to fight. And he taught me bare knuckles boxing, and he taught me dirty fighting. He was like, if you're in a down and out fight and you never mind the rules. And one of the first things he taught me was someone ever grabs you from behind, you reach back and you take your thumbs and you put them in their eyes and you just push their eyes in. And he says, it's game over. It's game over. At that point, like that there's no, the guy's not coming back from that. No matter how, it doesn't matter if he's a 6'2", 300-pound linebacker. You stick your fingers in his eyes and shove his eyeballs back in his head. It's the end of the fight. And that was one of the things with this. The first, I can remember my grandpa teaching me this. And then same thing. You got all these bones, you couldn't squish. I mean, yeah, it would hurt. I mean, obviously, if someone sticks your fingers in your eye, it's going to hurt like hell. But you couldn't push the eyeballs back into their head because it's all bone now. It was one of those just disconnects for me of like, whoa. Wait a second.
Yeah, when we get to the kidneys later, it's the same story. With I had so many boxers be like, hey, man, the kidney punch. This doesn't work anymore. The kidney punch was never down low like that. Up high like that. It was lower. I got nailed in dodgeball, and I got taken out by ambulance because I had like kidneys. Like it was like serious got right in the kidney. You could hit somebody with a freaking softball now and not hit the fucking kidney. Yeah, they would have hit your ribs now.
Yeah.
All right. So are we ready to move on to your favorite section? You want to do it?
Yeah, on you go.
All right, here we go, because this is going to make you lose your mind. I'm already predicting this, ladies and gentlemen. She's about to lose her, being that she has done so much child birth stuff. We're going to talk about the pelvis. Okay, old reality, new reality. Let's talk pelvis time. Now, the old reality, the pelvis it seemed much more thicker. And what was interesting is these foramens are missing. The pubic foramens.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a large bone. And I kind of remembered that. And the hips were more of an angle. They weren't like this.
Yeah.
This is the old reality. But what really, really bugged me in the old reality is that we had much more of a monkey tailbone. It was very, very skinny. Mm-hmm. Now, when I went through chiropractic school, we got this huge Hawkins sacrum, this giant sacrum.
This sacrum is huge.
Huge now.
It's like armor.
And let me show you a little more on this, because I think I've got a better picture of it I want to show you.
Especially if you see it from the back. If you've got one that shows it from the back.
Well, actually, I don't. I should, but I'll talk about it in a sec here. I think you'll see enough from the front. You don't. The sacrum. Okay, I made this picture, and this is what I remember it being like. It was much more monkey-like. Okay, so this is a much thinner. Darn it, I can't get this annotate to work. All right, this is a much thinner sacrum. And the iliac crest, everything else was much more butterfly-like and wider. Now, this picture here is actually that of a chimpanzee. I could not find my old reality. So this is if someone's like, hey, man, that's a monkey bone. Yeah, you're right. It is a monkey bone. I put it on here because it's the best example I could find of what I remember. And also, it was more segmented.
Yeah.
You could see the segments. It wasn't so fused. You can look through this and be like, oh, yeah, there's the tail. It gives into a tail. These days, we got this giant sacrum that looks much more like a triangle, right?
Yeah.
And the sacroiliac joints are much bigger.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is the foramens are out wider. And this is all fused much more into one bone, shorter bone than these segments. Now, I remember...
You said fused, because that's what it feels like now. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
I do this kind of work, and the acupressure work, and you get down there, and it's like, it's a solid brick. It might as well be made of cast iron, and that blows my mind.
Well, the reason I remember this is because of when I was in high school, I used to wrestle, and I broke my tailbone sledding, and when I went... Yeah. So you too? A toboggan?
Toboggan.
Is that toboggan? Yeah. I'm going down a hill, hit a rock. I fell into like a crevice and cracked it. And so I jammed my tailbone really bad. And I was like, oh man, am I going to be able to wrestle or not? So I had to go and get an x-ray. And the doctor is laughing and he's like, oh, there's your monkey tail. And it looked like a monkey tail. And I was like, man, what's up with that? And he's like, oh, don't get mad. Everybody has that. And then, you know, chiropractic school, we're shooting it, and I'm like, where's my monkey tail now? You know, all it is this little coccyx. It's not a tail. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just this little coccyx, little triangle thing. So my tailbone changed from my childhood to my adult. I definitely remember that because we made fun of how much it looked like a damn monkey tail.
Well, so same thing. I broke my tailbone on a fucking toboggan. You may not know, a toboggan is a wooden sled that you sit on and you go.
Yeah, it's like a millimeter of plastic.
Yeah,
there's no protection.
And they have the bars that go like, you know, every 12 inches. There's like the cross beam bar. I hit a ramp and we went flying and I came down right on the cross beam, and and it's the same thing you say about the monkey tail, because I saw the X-rays. My mother worked at a medical center, which was a really good thing because I was really good friends with the X-ray technician by the time I was 15. And she showed me the X-ray. It was like, yeah, and my tailbone, as it was like this, had gone, and there was literally like a bend in it. And they were like, I was like, what do you do? And she was like, nothing, you're fucked. That's it.
Yeah.
You got.
It's hard if it gets cracked like that. There is a chiropractic move. It's not fun. And
yeah, I know what it involves.
You basically, you got to go in the anus and pull the bone back out. And it's not a fun move, but, you know, you got to have a crooked tailbone your whole life. You got to do it. So most chiropractors won't do it, but you'll find a few.
Fun fact, in Japan, they're really, really big about maternity care and like fixing everything while we're here. And my cousin had done a very similar thing, and her midwife was like, oh, your tailbone's out of place. No problem. I'll just fix that. And it was a common.
That's how they did it. Then
they just literally.
Yeah.
That was it.
I think there's some island cultures like that. I remember meeting a Jamaican lady. He's like, we do it all the time. It's like, just get in there and pop. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just
right back into place.
You know, the Americans that are so prude. I don't know, but you know, modesty goes out the window when you're a doctor. So
and when you're
you've seen everything.
I tell you.
Yeah, and you too. Yeah, I mean, when you have a baby or your mother, forget it. You know. Anyway, so before we get this completely derails, let's get into. You want to get into soft tissue here? Yep. Let's talk about organs.
Go.
Let's get into organs. Okay.
The heart.
So we are getting. You want to start with the heart? Okay, we'll go to the heart.
Look at the heart. That's amazing
the heart
for everyone.
The heart kind of bugged me because, okay, as I remember as a kid. Okay, let's talk, and I bet you remember this too. The heart was, oh, darn it. It's doing crazy stuff again. Hold on. There we go. The heart was always on the left side.
Yep.
Notice the heart shadow, the big bump that comes out right under the nipple here.
Yep.
Okay. Here, in the new reality, yes, the heart's still on the left, but look at the angle. It's hanging down.
Yeah.
It's not going horizontal. So you'll see that it's much more lower. A lot of it's in the center. They say that, you know, the heart's kind of more in the center. And I remember, again, this is what kind of bugs me, is I don't remember it hanging so, you know, I don't remember it going so superior to inferior. It wasn't like this. It was more like this when I was a kid. And so I know that there's some variation in the hearts, but they're saying that's the norm now. So I remember, you know, unfortunately, I am not a fan of the Pledge of Allegiance. I do not like it. But where do you put your hand, right? Which one? Right. You put your hand over the left. And what you do is you always put it on the left side. You don't put your hand in the center. You learn, put it over your heart, you know. That's kind of when I was a kid, it was always put your hand over your heart, and it was on the left. It wasn't in the center. Also in movies, I remember people getting shot, and they would always aim for the left side, or to kill like a werewolf or a vampire. They had to hit him on the left, not in the center. Yep. It was always like in the fiction that, oh, you shot him on the wrong side, he's still alive. If that had been a few inches over, you would have got him in the heart and killed him. You know, those sort of things. And if you think back to the fiction when we were kids, there was a lot of stuff revolving around the heart being over the left and not the right. Yeah. And I remember all that stuff. So
yeah,
what do you think about that?
There's just too much of it. It's like you said, too many anecdotal are all about the heart being on the left. Like you say, you take your Pledge of Allegiance. If you swear in on the Bible, if you swear, it doesn't matter what oath you're taking, it's always the exact same, right? It's this hand on the left. It's not handed here, right? I mean, that is a very Eastern tradition, just for saying good morning, etc. But it's always on the left.
Well, right. I know. I mean, it developed
everywhere.
It developed from the Roman salute and all that crap. I get it, but it was always taught, put your hand over your heart on the left. No one's like, hey, do this because it's the old Roman salute. You know, it was always tied to your heart when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about a little more brains.
Yeah, what was Tom saying? The foramen, facial foramen, he said.
We'll get to those because the foramen, we'll get to that after the brain here in a sec. So I already got this open. One of the things I noticed a lot in the brain was the cerebellum. here it's kind of round, looks sort of like a tomato. Here it looks like a lemon. It's changed kind of where it's like crammed more into the skull. And this is why I keep saying the occiput in the back of the skull, something has changed here. Maybe to make more room for this. I don't know. But this is really weird. I don't remember it looking like that. I remember this is more my reality on MRIs and stuff. Here's this. So I don't know what's going on with the occiput, but something's going on back there.
Yeah.
As far as the foramens in the face, so I've had a lot of people ask me about that. I have to kind of say I'm going to have to defer, because here's the deal. When I was studying anatomy in college, I wasn't really looking that much at the foramens to say, yeah, they were there. So they could have been there. I just really wasn't paying attention. But when I was doing, morgue work, dissecting bodies in chiropractic school, they were definitely there, because we studied, the trigeminal nerve coming out, the mandibular nerve. They come out of those holes, those foramens. Those foramens have always been there, but I think people just kind of never really noticed. I don't know if they're necessarily as big as they are now. Maybe I could say that, but they, to me, those have always been there. So when people are like, where are these new 6 holes in your head? I'm like, dude, those have always been there for me.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
They haven't been there. And it was one of the most shocking, as everyone has their own little, when you come across certain Mandela effects, it really slap you upside of the head. That was one of the big ones for me. Because like I said, I've broken my jaw, I've broken my orbital, I've had multiple facial x-rays taken. And I've studied them. I used to take them home with me. Because like I said, I knew the doctor's office. So I could take my x-rays home with me and get copies.
So did your nerves, how did the nerves come out through the skull to your face and stuff?
I can't tell you, because I wasn't looking at it for that. But
they weren't coming out. Okay, so that's it. Is to me, I'm not sure how they would have done it otherwise. Like they have to come out somehow to the face.
I totally hear you on this, because the exact same thing. How did they fit? How did that work? I can't answer that, except just say I know from my studies of anatomy, because I was a medic in the military. I said,
all right, yeah, you would have seen that a bunch.
You would. It was.
I'll tell you this.
To me when I saw it, it literally, I had a moment of just jaw like, what the fuck? No fucking way.
I don't remember seeing them on x-rays when I took x-rays much. You'd really have to look for them. They weren't like these big holes. But when I dissected bodies, there were clearly holes in the face when I was digging around. I mean, look, I remember all these other changes, so I'm not arguing that the body's changed. I just don't have memory of that one. Yep. And it's just because I don't think I was looking back then. I don't know. I can't give a clear answer. I'm not going to say it's wrong.
The thing that you talked about with the upper ribs, I had never thought of it before. It's not something that would have stood out for me, because until you actually showed it just now, and I was like, oh my God, yes, exactly. Okay. So we all have our own little things that we look to. And it's just because I've done so much first rib work. Like I've adjusted a hell of a lot of first ribs, and it's a very difficult chiropractic move, but it brings amazing relief to people if you get good at first rib. And it's amazing so many people now have problems like you're saying. I don't, it's a poor upgrade in the upper body. If we are upgraded, it is subpar. It seriously was a step back. Just not cool.
Yeah. And that's it. I don't think I need to show that picture. Let me dive into, we were talking about this earlier, but I'll show you this one, because this is, I think, almost comical, really. Oh, there's your daughter. Hey, Shannon.
Hi.
Okay, steal my shoes to go take the dog for a walk.
All right. So, all right, here's the new kidneys, right?
Yeah.
So the old reality, these are just drawings, and I know they're not anatomical drawings. I wish I had better shots, but you got to deal with the fact that I can't find a smoking gun of, here's a picture from the old reality or old x-rays. People say they exist, but nobody seems to send them to me when I ask. So the MRIs and the x-rays look like the new reality. So here's what we were talking about. I remember the kidneys being much lower. Now they're like practically in the chest. They're comically high.
Comically.
Yeah, comically. Like, this is laughable. This is a terrible drawing, I think, but they are above, they're in the ribs now, where before they were below the ribs. So I find, like, I put a much more accurate picture up before about this, but this is really just kind of hits home that the kidney, because we used to do, one of the ways to find out if somebody, as a chiropractor, you have to figure out, do they have back pain? Is this pain from their ovaries? Is this pain from kidneys? They all kind of present the same way. That's always pain.
Yeah.
So you would do a kidney punch to figure out, you know, you'd put your hand on their kidney and you'd send a little vibration in. And if it was a kidney stone, they would damn near, you know, throw up and punch you.
Yeah.
And if it was an osteopain or a nerve pain, they usually wouldn't. They would just go, ow, they tolerate it. But, you know, so it was kind of like a down and dirty way to say, okay, maybe I got to run a urinalysis or, you know, check more into kidney stone. So it's not like 100%, oh my gosh, you have a kidney stone or something, but it's just a little tool you can use to kind of steer you of, do I need to examine this more? But we used to do the kidney punch, and when I learned, they were low, you know. Now they're like, now when I actually went and looked at a manual, and they were like, okay, find the 12th rib and put your hand right above it a little and hit. And it's like, we used to hit the rib and go down. Like it was like 3 fingers down from the rib. Yeah. And so even in chiropractic school and stuff, like, I feel like maybe the kidneys have changed in the last few years, because I remember those being, like, specifically us doing kidney entrapments and stuff. They were not super high in the ribs. They were much easier to get a hold of.
Literally. But
I honestly, maybe that one has changed. I don't know, because I find that weird. That's just like comical how high the kidneys are now.
Well, it is. Here's one of the things I want to talk about, because this is, someone asked the question, that brief 3 minutes that we talked about the Mandela effect on your show last night. The brief.
Why you gotta give me grief? What's up?
I just think it's so funny, because we both said, yeah, we're going to talk about this, and we never actually got around to it. Those round twists are hard to find sometimes. But when I was asked, they said, like, okay, what do you think causes the Mandela effect? And I was just like, that beats me. I have no freaking clue. Just, it could be this, and depends on what day of the week, the answer that you'll get from me is what my opinion is. And are you joining us?
Sorry, I'm just distracted by your dog getting comfortable.
Kurt's going to get comfy on the chair. He's going to join.
He's so cute. I love him. Okay.
Okay, you go to sleep.
Everybody stop. Stop what we're doing. Let's look at the dog for a while.
Just wait. Usually at some point in time in the show, he'll decide he has to come sit on my lap, because everyone wants a lap dog, a 40-kilo lap dog.
Good. That would be great. I would love to see that.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. No, don't encourage him. Right? So one of the things is, because I look at not even what's causing the Mandela effect, but what is it? But are we literally moving through dimensions? Moving through timelines? Are we shifting? Is our consciousness going from, like, one version of us into another version of us into another version of us, as our consciousness is kind of coming in, perhaps? We talk about absorbing fractals. If we have fractals of ourselves across the multiverse, that as the timelines are collapsing, we're absorbing those fractals of ourselves back into ourselves. Is this a symptom, i.e., if my consciousness went from the Danny that was over there and all of a sudden got dropped into this body, and then you go, physiologically is different? Could that be the pain that we're experiencing, different difficulties? It's because we literally, on a conscious level, are not used to the way the body works. And it takes this adjustment to kind of try and fit into it.
Oh no, because I feel like there was a time where my liver was huge. I kept saying to Kate, I think I need to get my liver checked, because I feel like it's pressing against my ribs constantly. And I think that was maybe a change when some of that happened too. Yeah. The liver's definitely gigantic now.
It's like I said, even the thing about the floating ribs. Never before in my life have I ever made the comment, like, don't hug mommy that hard, you're crushing my rib. Never happened.
Yeah.
Yet in the last 2 years, it seems to be like, I don't know, at least once a week, those words are coming out of my mouth. And you're like, how divided? I've never even thought of this sentence before. Who would have thought, right? It's one of the things that I kind of look at. It's like, okay, is that kind of like what we're experiencing? If consciousness is extends that much more so beyond what people consider like the spirit, the soul, etc. Our consciousness is much more vast than that. If we're bringing those memories, even to a cellular level, so to speak, we're talking about now DNA, etc., and you're coming into, I don't say, another dimensional shift of yourself, another fractal of yourself and physicality, another avatar, is that adjustment period that we're going through of, like you say, like where it's like, this doesn't fit. And like your liver, it's like, well, wait, what's going on here? And you know, things like the hips. The hips is another big one. A lot of people are having huge hip problems. And you can sit there and say, oh, well, it's just you got a crappy mattress. What, of all of us, all of a sudden, all of us have started sleeping on concrete? I don't think so. I mean, I am, but that's just because I have a shitty mattress. But not everyone does. So, and I look at these things and go, okay, well, you have a huge amount of people who are suffering from these hip pains and hips that feel continuously out of place. Like you just literally on a day-to-day basis, you're like, oh, my hips just don't feel like they're right. It doesn't feel right. Is that possibly something that we're experiencing, that literally a physical shift into a new physicality that we're just not used to?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, like you said, I change my mind on the Mandela effect all the time, but I do have visions, and, you know, I definitely understand, and I believe. It's funny that this is how I think, you know, stuff's universal truth, because I am not some guru, and I have never, you know, I don't have the street cred you guys have where you've been studying this 20 years, and this kind of fell into my lap. You got spirituality, street cred. I don't have that stuff. But what I did is I did have a visions where I do get them, and it was that we came into this reality, and we, in order to be more efficient, this whole existence is about collecting experiences.
Yeah.
So to be more efficient, that every time you make a choice, you fracture your soul a little bit, and you have 2 souls that go out and get experiences, and then 4 souls and 20 souls, and millions of pieces of soul goes out. But before you can leave this existence, they all have to bring that and collapse back into each other, into one soul, before you get out of here. And I believe that process is going on, where you fuse into the one that is the closest reality. As they collapse, it'll get a little weirder and weirder and weirder as we get to where we're going to be at the original reality to get out of here. There's like a dominant and a recessive realities, like genes, you know, as above, as below. It works like genetics, sort of, you know, where there's dominant, recessive souls. That was part of my vision. And what's funny is when I explained that, I had never read anybody else's stuff. I had never really been into this. And people were like, oh, yeah, man, I've heard that theory. And it's like, I don't know who the hell you're talking about. You know, they'll be like, someone wrote about that in the 50s. And I think that's when you start to know you're on some sort of universal truth.
All about that.
Because you just explained it the same way I saw it, and we've never talked to each other about it.
Yep.
And so, like, if you're getting that same vision and I'm getting that same vision, and, you know, hundreds of other people are getting that same vision, it's all coming from a source. That to me feels a lot more real. Like we're all seeing the same thing. Why? And I think that is very, very important to point out, because there's so much information that comes to me that I've never heard of, and people will be like, I thought I was being original and making this stuff up, and someone will be like, no, man, you're talking about, you know, quantum immortality, and I'll be like, oh, you know. So I think it's original, but it's coming in from the source. Like, and I believe that the Mandela effect is reality's collapsing. And I also kind of am in the Dolores Cannon camp, where I feel like the Earth is collapsing as well and getting ready to vibrate the hell out of here. That it's getting to go to a new Earth. I mean, that feels right to me. I don't think it is CERN and all the crazy. I think that's like coincidental and maybe a little piece of it. I think there's something way bigger going on spiritually.
And that's it with me too. I mean, like I said last night, I keep all my doors open. I look at all the information as it presents itself. So the thing with CERN, we know they're tampering with multi-dimensions. We know they're doing stuff like this, gravity waves, a lot of this stuff, I think that's more so my gut. And what my gut has said for a long time is what they're doing is to try and prevent.
Maybe they're trying to slow it down so the powers that be can enjoy the ride a little longer. You know, they've set up the board game.
Maybe they're trying to create their own timeline so that when all the shit hits the fan, they can all go, oh, we're going to go over here. Thanks for playing. We'll go to our own place.
Well, I think me and you both agree that the timeline this reality's been hijacked by evil forces, who I really don't think are evil. They're just playing a part in the game. They've decided to play the bad guys this round. You know, I think that they're like that. We were on the other side, and I said, "You be the bad guy, and you be the crazy lizard, reptile, banker, Jews, or whatever, and you run the world." And then what happens is you need that opposition to create experience, because if we were all the same person and all having a positive experience, you wouldn't learn anything.
Yeah.
You can't understand what hot water is until you felt cold water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to have both sides of this. So I think that's part of this experience. So even though I call them evil because they do terrible evil things, I really think they're just playing a role. It's kind of like your buddy who's playing a bad guy in a video game and you're playing a good guy, and you're both just having fun in the video game. And then when you're done, you both probably laugh about it and go, man, you really kicked my ass this round. Well done. You know, I think it comes to that later on. But I think when we're here, we forget why we're here.
Oh, yeah.
And that I think these evil forces have forgotten what role they're playing, and they're starting to really get into it. And they're like, man, you know, we've been manipulating society for hundreds of thousands of years here. We're not ready to give up this ride. So we're going to delay it and suppress it as long as we possibly can to enjoy this, you know? Yeah. Or maybe they do realize it, and maybe that's part of it is, you know, we got to ramp it up to this level before mankind becomes aware, you know? Maybe that's what they have to do. They have to take it to absolute ground zero.
Oh, see, that is something that I really played with a lot back in 2013. I really dug deep into that kind of conscious thoughts, you know, and that was one of the things is like, they may have gone into it. We may have all gone into it completely, you know, like the whole memory wipe thing. So you have the rinse and repeat cycle, right? The whole, like, you know, like in, through, in, out, back in, you're spit back into it, and you're just completely blanked out again to go through and gather another experience. And one of the things I had, someone I actually didn't like at all, but was a very interesting person. The one and only time I saw him drunk, he made a statement that was really profound. And he made a comment to the fact of like, oh, I've seen you, and I've seen all your other yous too. And some of your other yous are fucking evil. So don't play all the issues with me. And at the time, my husband Nick was standing there with me. We were all having a drink, and I was just like, wow. But I had been already talking about that, you know, like there is that. If this is a petri dish, we're going to learn our experiences and to gather this information, we'll say. That's an experiment. You always have controls, and you're not going to run one. You're going to run multiple experiments all at the same time, because that just makes the most logical sense. And if this consciousness is going to be this person in this experiment, it seems that there is a very good chance that somewhere else on one of those other petri dishes, you're going to be the exact opposite of what you are in this experiment. I don't know. It's one of the things I say. It's all about we don't know, and we can say that they know, and we can say it's very easy to blame, but at the same time, there has always been that piece of me who's kind of said, you know, if this is just an experiment, just a learning experience, then yeah, we are seeing the extremities, so, right? Dark to light, hot to cold, good to evil. In order to experience any one of those, you have to have the opposite to allow you to fully experience it.
And to appreciate it.
And to, to really fundamentally
understand what love and good is when you see such evil. I always try to refer it to what I know, and I know a lot about video games, and I feel that like this is one gigantic virtual video game that me and you have played this video game, I don't know, 20, 30,000 times, and every time we get done, we sit there and we discuss the game and laugh about it and say, okay, here's what I learned, here's what you learned, and then you and your friends decide to go back in and play again, and we swap roles and we switch around. But imagine me and you play the same game over and over and over. Don't you think you'd get really sick of playing a good guy? You'd be like, I want to see what it's like to be the bad guy. I want to be, you know, I want that experience of
this time.
What it's going to be to, I'm going to be the evil Jedi, the dark side. And so I think that we go in and we play, and I don't share this very often. I mean, I do talk about it a little on my show, but I have really explained it that there was a dark time in my life where I am not proud and I did bad things. And I used to explain it that I felt like someone else was stepping in and running my body. Like you could watch them do stuff and be like, what are you doing? And then they would do bad things and then give the body back to you and be like, here you go. You know, like it was like somebody stepping in. And I now at this time, I feel like you said, that maybe it was an evil reality that I slid into, and I watched a worse version of myself. And then I slid out to a better reality later on. I believe we can merge realities, and I guarantee that there's a lot of realities where I'm a real jerk out there, you know, and not a good guy. But hopefully this one I turn out all right, you know. So I do feel like I remember saying to people, I feel like someone is, it doesn't feel like the true me. It feels like someone's running my body and doing things and giving it back to me. It was really weird. It was almost outer body. I don't want to say like possession, because I think that's not correct, but I feel like it was another version of me that wasn't a nice guy.
I'll tell you a little story. So this touches on what we talked about on the show last night. We talked about like the galactics, and the reason why I had Denise come on and talk to Stan, the data collector for the Sphere Alliance, because I was like, well, here's another piece. Let's gather these pieces of the puzzle together. And one of the things they said last night was the fact that I've had this gut feeling for a long time that there could very well be that a lot of these channeled messages, galactic shit, could very well be absolutely 100% what it said to be, legit. But that they are playing in their own reality, that their storyline, their fiction is their fiction. And maybe in their fiction, they are supposed to be the saviors of the human race and come to Earth and save Earth, because that's what their storyline is. But that doesn't mean that it's our storyline. So we get this kind of bleed through from all these other little places, from talented people who have the ability to be able to reach out. Now, I've had a lot of visions that way myself, where I've gone through and I've seen, and I have an alter ego. And I've talked about this a couple of times on the One People show. And I have seen this other me, for lack of a better word, since I was a teenager. It always happened in dream time. You have dreams. And this other me is like a captain or a commander on a spaceship. And she's a fucking bitch. She's got no sense of humor, like hair pulled back in the tight bun, very strict by the book. Everything is like this. And I always assumed, because I've always had a love of science fiction, Star Wars is like the be-all, end-all in our household, and watched all the Star Trek, read science fiction my whole life. So you think, well, these are just dreams from your subconscious because of all the science fiction you read. And then back in 2013, I met a couple of people who had this ability to be able to consciously go into dream time and interact. And out of the blue, I had people who would kind of go, I see this person and I've interacted with this person, people who've never met me before. And then come to me and been like, you remind me of someone who I talked to quite a bit out there. And then I met someone when we were in Morocco who talks about, this encounter that she had during meditation that changed her life. And she talks about how her star family, what she assumed was her star family, came to her and said, you need to come with us, et cetera, et cetera. And she says, strangely enough, this woman looked a lot like you.
Wow.
Really, and I was like, oh, really? And Lisa Harrison was actually with me, standing next to me as this story was going on. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she started doing that because she knows the whole stories. She was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. Hair pulled back in a bun, gray uniform, very by the book, no sense of humor, kind of a bitch. She was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's another me. I'm sorry. I hate her guts. Her and I have arguments all the fucking time about the fact that I'm like, would you seriously get a sense of humor and stop following the book? You need to stop following the book. Like, start thinking for yourself, texting, break out of the control structure. By this point, Lisa's literally almost on the floor. She's laughing so hard. This is someone we've only just met. And at that point, you start, and I had several over the course of 2013, 2014, people who saw this person and immediately knew it was a me.
Wow.
They met me, they were like to the point of a good friend of mine who I did a lot of energetic, if you want to talk about astral type work with in 2013 and 14, we did a lot of work together, kind of outside the field of time. She'd had a conversation with me. She had a granddaughter came over, and her granddaughter happens to be super sensitive. She happens to be one of those kids. So this friend of mine was kind of walking her granddaughter through visualizations about, and she was just little, like 6. And I happened to call her one day on Skype, and the Skype image comes up, and there's my image, and the little girl goes, "Oh, that's the woman. That's the woman I keep talking to on the spaceship." This is a 6-year-old little girl. Never met me before, never seen me before. So yeah, getting back to the original comment, yeah, I totally believe that we have these fractals, for lack of a better word, fractals of ourselves. They're out there, and we could have one that's in the Sphere Alliance, and we could have one that's with the Past Masters, Ascended, whatever doohickey guys, and maybe there's one of us that's down in Agartha, and maybe there's one that's part of the Galactic Federation, and one of them is on Ashtar Command, and God knows, but it makes sense if we're all gathering experiences that it wouldn't just necessarily be on this planet, in this fiction.
Yeah, be across all kinds of realities. Now, I do believe you have to collapse into one soul to go deliver and upload this message. Like it seems that this is probably a cycle that happens a lot. That we're crossing, merging together. But that's really interesting. I have never heard of someone that meeting another reality of themselves. So, like that other people are talking to. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a wake up moment for me, because all of a sudden it was one of those where I had to stop thinking of it as these are just dreams. And kind of putting it off like, oh, this is just your overactive imagination, and you just you want to be the captain of the starship, therefore you're dreaming of this stuff. When you get meet in physicality people who are telling you, no, I've actually met you out there. It was a wake-up call for me, because it was a moment where I had to all of a sudden come to the absolute understanding and comprehension that there is more, and that what I was seeing was actually taking place somewhere, I don't know where. And the multiple layers that I've been through, it's like, if this one piece is actually happening, then I have to look at all these other pieces that I've seen and say, there's a very good chance that all those pieces are also happening. And that it's just a matter of, in certain states, whether it's dream time or meditation, that you have the ability to suddenly cross over. And I do think that there have been times where, like you say, those other pieces of you have come in for moments. And there have been times, like you say, where all of a sudden it's not just you there, that maybe another piece of you has just slid in. And you have to reintegrate, remerge that piece of consciousness into your own and get rebalanced again.
I think it works like DNA, that there's a dominant and a recessive soul that comes in, and the dominant will display as much as they can, but there's still little slithers that the recessive has that sneak through, and you have residual memories and stuff like that. So I do believe it works, like basically just like DNA. as above as below fractals. You know, we're large pieces of DNA. I did have a few more pictures, unless you want to skip them, or you want to keep going on the body, or are we done with that?
Let's say fuck it. Let's just say the human body, the upgrade. Not agreeing with the upgrade. It wasn't an upgrade at all.
I do have one or two I want to show though that are bugging me.
Go ahead.
All right, let me do. We'll do two more. All right, so let's do this one. Unfortunately, this isn't the greatest picture on the left. I couldn't find a good picture of my reality. Yeah. But this is what I remember. If you guys remember, the stomach used to be a lot more horizontal, and now it's a lot more vertical.
Yep.
You know, and that is one of the memories I have. And the liver is gigantic now. Like, it was not this big. I feel like the liver expanded and just pushed the stomach up and over. Like, it jammed into this.
It looks like it literally pushed the stomach up against the rib cage and just was like, okay, we'll just squish it.
It's like, we need a liver this big and we're just going to cram it in here. And maybe that's because we live in such a toxic world now. I don't know. And then the next one that really bugs me is this one. And this is so silly. But this is what I was talking about, how that this is subpar. Okay. This is the intestine we're looking at. Let's see if I can draw this. But what happened in the old reality is the stomach. Oh, darn it! Why does it keep doing this? Hold on. The stomach would be here somewhere. It would drop into the lower intestine, and then what I remember is the lower intestine turning and going in. Going through the duodenum and becoming the low intestine. Yes. Now it wraps around the pancreas and does a crazy turn against gravity, a U-turn, and then starts. This is like the worst design ever, because you're asking it to work against gravity, go through a tight turn, and it is, you're talking about, this is just like a recipe for things getting stuck in a disaster. It's a terrible design. Who the hell, I mean, it's like they're drinking or something. So I remember it just working with gravity and going out. This is really weird to me, and it bugs me a lot.
It was actually, I'd forgotten all about the whole thing with the intestinal tract, because I did the same type of thing where one of my kids, they decided they were looking through the digestive. We were just talking about digestion. How does digestion work? Oh, well, let's pull up a picture, and we start trying. Well, the food goes in your mouth and down into the stomach. And the same thing, I was like, why is there an inverted P-trap in the intestine? I'm sorry. No logical sense whatsoever. Like, I mean, none. And that's not how it freaking looked. And it blew my mind.
Very bad plumbing design. The inverted P-trap. I do appreciate your plumbing knowledge. That's pretty badass.
I can lay tiles.
That's right. Someone's laughing about that. Okay.
Yeah. That's right. It's an inverted P-trap. Exactly. You should see plumbing here in this country. It's the scariest shit ever. Oh, we have to touch it. Okay, you touch it. I'll go and turn off all the water mains to the house because I'm terrified of what's going to happen. Yeah, plumbing here, quite funny. No. Comedy Central, I tell you.
I'm pretty sure somewhere I used to be a plumber, because I really enjoy plumbing, and it's an odd thing to like. Like, I started remodeling my house, and I was like, man, I just love plumbing. I don't know what it is. It's so easy for me. I love it, and I was great at it. And I was thinking to myself, why the hell did I become a doctor? I should have been a plumber. This is, it's like this really enjoyable experience.
Plumbers make more money.
Yeah, yeah, that's true for sure. And they sure as hell spend a lot less money becoming. Dude, if you're listening, don't go into healthcare. It sucks. Don't do it unless, people are always like, I want to be a doctor. I was like, don't. It's so expensive to even try it. Yeah. Go do something better. You can get all the knowledge you need from the internet. Don't worry about it. It's like I'm not that good on it. So anyway, I was saying that I really enjoyed plumbing, and I'm starting to think maybe if there was another reality, I was a plumber, because nobody likes plumbing. Who's like, let's sign me up to be a plumber? But I really enjoyed it. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Well, it's funny, because we did a show. Pardon me. And I guess it probably would have been I think about this, 2000, late 2015, early 2016, we did several One People shows where we ended up talking about people just waking up one day with a new talent. And we had some spectacular ones where people woke up one day and all of a sudden going to like, this is my stick man portrait, to being able to paint. People who've never had a music lesson in their life sitting down at a drum set and being able to, play the drums, not just like bang, 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 but literally play the drums. And it was one of those things where, again, you go, wow. People who couldn't sing before have all of a sudden are able to sing. People who couldn't do certain things, like athletics, whatever, suddenly having an ability to do things like that. Or pieces of knowledge. So things like, all of a sudden being like, I'm really good at this plumbing shit. Wow, who'd have thought I'd be such a good plumber? And again, it comes back to that, the fractals coming in. John, we've got someone unmuted, and I think they're on a phone. If you can just take a look.
There you go. Yep.
There we go. So if we're looking at fractals of ourselves, pieces, fragments of our consciousness, reunifying again. The same thing, it kind of makes sense that there are going to be pieces of us who are going to come in with completely different reality sets, abilities. And then as they integrate dominant and recessive, I think that's a really good, I had never thought of it that way, but that's really, really interesting.
That's how they showed me it.
Piece, and they just have this one dominant piece, and it just happens to be something tangible like music, art, a talent, like being electrically minded. They can run, rewire a blender in 30 seconds flat type thing. And they come in, and maybe they've got that one dominant that comes in with the recessives, and it hits with maybe one of your recessives, and next thing you know, you've got like a true dominant there. All of a sudden, boom, here you go. You have this ability to do something. These conversations are really difficult because the reality of it is that we don't know. No one has the answers. Like, no one has the answers. But we have
pieces, and what I'm finding out, Danny, is I'm getting pieces of visions, and then I talk. Every single person I listen to gives me another piece I'm missing.
Yep.
So, like, I'm being steered to getting a lot more pieces of the puzzle. Sure, the puzzle might be 1,000 pieces, and maybe I have 100, but it's better than one piece.
It's a 500 million piece puzzle, and it's all white. Have fun.
Yeah, and that's it. And I do think, what do you think about a mass awakening? Do you think it's going to happen in our lifetime, or is that still way, way off?
Honestly, my gut says I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. I have had a thing in my gut for ages that it is imminent. Define mass awakening. I mean, that's one of the tough ones. Again, you get to Dolores Cannon, some of her stuff where it talks about like a two-earth split. But that feeling to me, when people say things like, "Oh, and in 2080," I'm like, "Yeah, not going to happen." And that's my gut. Like, it's like an instantaneous gut reaction that I have of like, no, we're not going that far. Like, it's, when NASA says, and in 2030, when we go to Mars, right, NASA, okay, tell me another one. We don't have to worry about that because we ain't never going to get there. My gut has been that we are on the verge, on the cusp, and it's like tangible.
I just, because I surround my world and my reality with people in the know, that it seems like everybody knows. But then when you go out of this world, you're like, oh yeah, there's people still asleep out there. I forget because my 90% of my conversations were all with people that are awake, that are feeling it. And so it's weird because I do feel like once it gets enough mass vibration that we're going to level up and it's going to be real obvious. All of a sudden, everybody's going to tap into everything. But the suppression will lift. But I don't know when it's going to happen. I do feel like it's going to be in our lifetime. if I were to use something logically, the Schumann resonance has doubled in the last 2 years. Now it doubled again in less than a year. Maybe exponentially it's going faster and faster. So maybe 4 or 5 years from now, we'll be at extremely high levels of vibration, and to where the reality is now a very high vibration. It's my best guess is I'm just kind of following the Schumann resonance just to, because I don't have any other thing.
Well, and that's it. We have limited tool structure, right?
Yeah, I don't really know.
Really, I have a hammer and I have a screwdriver. So basically, it's either a nail or it's a screw, and that's how I have to tackle.
That's it. Okay.
So, and we actually had a conversation in the Unfuckers room yesterday, I think, maybe 2 days ago, talking about the Schumann resonance. And one of the things that I said was like, okay, so if you're looking at the Russian one, the one that's the thesis Librev, no, that's the solar one. No, the Russian site that shows the Schumann resonance stuff and the amplitudes, etc. The problem is we don't know where they're getting the information from, how they're measuring it, or if it is only a local thing. So those
that's true.
Are they only happening there, and therefore are they being triggered by earthquakes?
You're right.
Lightning strikes? Could
it be a solar flare? Could it be, yeah.
And we just don't know. Now the other one is.
But I will say this, Danny. I do want to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
That when the Schumann resonance goes up, there is a mass ripple of crankiness and craziness that does really happen. And I chart it on our page. I give like a little joke of a warning. That will say like what the cranky Mandela level is right now. And it is, so even though it might be local to them, we have people from all around the world, and they are definitely experiencing and feeling it. I mean, it looks like this, I'll put a little meter up for the day, a little Mandela, and say, okay, be aware that if people are arguing in the chat room, this is why, because everybody's irritated and the level goes up. So that's it is I don't want to dismiss that. Yeah, maybe they're even making up the numbers, or maybe it's bullshit BS that's just local. I get it, but there's a very real connection to the people I know, and
that's just it. I mean, for me, I have spent years tracking the solar cycles, and I watch the sun, not so much right now because the sun's pretty much a dead ball in the sky. It's not really blowing off much excitement at the moment, so I'm not watching it daily like I used to. I track CERN. I track the Schumann resonance. When we have a big CME incoming and we have a geomagnetic storm, I will immediately go and cross-reference CERN, both the LHC, the awake, and then I will go and I'll cross-reference the Schumann resonance, and I'll usually pull together a bunch of screenshots and throw them into the Unfuckers room and go, here's what we're seeing right now. Make of it as you will. Because, I mean, we don't have the answers. Geomagnetic storms totally affect people. We know this. This is like mainstream science, right? When there's a geomagnetic storm, road rage goes through the roof. So do suicides. So does, like shootings and all this kind of stuff. Because those geomagnetic energies interact with our own, they physically affect us. So like today, I've been offline for a good portion of the day today because I've been just running like crazy, getting all kinds of stuff done. I had a really wild day today in the fact of I was woozy. I sat there several times going, right, I'm just going to sit here on the chair for a few minutes, wait for the world to stop spinning. Maybe I'll go have a nap. And then 2 hours later, I'm going, I think I'm going to go lie down again. I haven't checked the Schumann resonance today to see if there was a spike. I haven't looked at the solar stuff. I haven't had a chance to look at CERN. We can pull up CERN right now if we want, just take a peek and see if they're fucking around. But yeah, this is the thing. And when you have people you can have a whole crew of people. And it doesn't necessarily affect everyone. And that's one of the things that some people say. It's like, but I don't feel anything. But that doesn't necessarily matter. We're all frequency. So if we're talking about anything to do with frequency, every single person has their own frequency, which means that if a certain frequency is hit here, it's only going to affect the people who have got maybe a frequency that is resonant to that frequency. If you're all resonating on B flat, then maybe that's literally how it interacts with us. But if you're an F sharp over here, maybe that B flat tone that's hit here is not going to affect you the same way because it's a different frequency resonance.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, different frequencies. I also believe though that when we first were having these big spikes of frequency, it was a purging. Either people adapted and they were very uncomfortable. It's kind of like when you fast, how when you fast you feel terrible and everything comes out and then you feel great. Because now when there's spikes, there's a lot of us having a good time and laughing. And Marlene is talking about that in the chat that, we're laughing now. But when it first started, people were fighting and bickering and just losing their damn minds. And so I think maybe it's a process of, here's the new level. Is your body going to adapt and come up to it? And as it comes up, it purges all the negative crap out, that everybody gets nasty and cranky. And now at the new level, well, this will happen again. Yeah. And eventually, as it goes up and down and hits this level again, I think sometimes if you're already at that level, you're like, oh, energize, all right.
Yeah. Well, and
so
go back to the musical stuff, because I've got a musical background. So like musical stuff and same thing. If that frequency is hitting a B flat and you're at an E flat over here, maybe you're not going to get pulled down as a B flat would, but because you're kind of just up from there, it just energized. And maybe if you're, like I said, an F sharp, you're going like, yeah, I don't feel jack shit. I don't know what you guys are. You don't know. And this is the thing. And unfortunately, like, science is fucking crippled right now.
I don't believe anything they say anyway. I only trust what I feel at this point.
No, but
we're being spoon-fed of
something. Just something, right? So
I guess, but you're using your logical mind to solve spiritual problems. It's your logical mind. You got to tell it to shut the hell up and feel.
And I agree, but some of us don't work there. Some of us have to, go through the process kind of thing of like, okay, what is it? Sherlock Holmes says, once you've eliminated everything that is possible, and obviously what is impossible is the answer. And that's my, I go through like I say, which is why when you have a woozy day, I'll go, let's look at the sun, let's look at CERN, let's look at the Schumann resonance. They're all sitting there happily doing nothing. So obviously it's not them. So what is it? Okay, put that out of the way. So that's like the physical. Let's just throw that out of the way now. Let's look at the energetic. Let's look at the,
I know you're a big show me the source and a science woman, and you want to figure it out logically because your brain makes you just can't accept an answer without knowing why. But like I got to a point where this reality is not real. I don't really care that much about why. I'm gonna just feel what's right and feel. You kill yourself in that loop of get out of your damn brain, man. Stop.
And I can
just take a step back and feel it.
And that's one of those places where you get to the point where sometimes you sit there and I will start amalgamating the graphs and then go,
I mean, maybe you got to wear out your left brain before your right brain's allowed to come over and play. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
I ain't going to say that you're wrong. Trust me, I ain't going to say that. This is it, right? I mean, this is why conversations are great when we can bring perspectives to the table, because we all think differently. We all go along a path, and we're all on. Let's say we're all on the same journey, but we all take different paths to get there. And we all just how we make those decisions and the perspectives that we bring to the table are amazing, because I have perspectives that I know that some people in the chat room just don't have and don't share. But then all of a sudden, Dr. Tarrin Lupo comes in and he gives a perspective and they go, totally get that. Totally get that. And it's through when we share all this perspective and we share our experiences and we share kind of like our own gut and what we think and what we feel, that we clarify stuff and we can kind of make the picture a little clearer in the way that we can perceive things, even if it's just the fact of being able to throw certain shit out, right?
It'll be interesting. I wonder what this conversation will be like 5 years from now. We sit here and we'll go, wow, do you remember we had that conversation 5 years ago, just how little we knew? Like what's been revealed by then? And,
Well,
It's
the
really
one
interesting.
conversation we had on the One People show is if you had told us 5 years ago, because the One People show started in January of 2013. If you had told us 5 years ago that we would be experiencing the energetic and frequency fluctuations that we're going through right now, the Mandela effect, we would be like, you're on crack. Seriously, tie that person up, take them away to the loony bin. And then you sit there and go, oh, maybe there's a reason why it doesn't all happen instantly. Maybe we need to kind of slowly work our way up to comprehending all of these little pieces, because maybe it would have been too much. I mean,
Maybe
if I felt
it's too much for.
Then what I do now, I'd have had myself committed. I swear.
No, that's a good point. That, I mean, physically, our bodies probably couldn't handle the shift. It has to go up a little at a time, and also just takes time to process. And, but I do feel like we're gaining speed at an exponential rate at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting so much information daily, which was not there years ago. So I'm curious where I'll be, in
6 months
in a while.
Now.
Yeah. Because I was sitting there, we got to the point where at first it was so shocking, all this stuff, and now it's like our daily life. Like, me and Kate were out shopping, and I looked at her and I said, do you see how crazy the sky is right now? I'm just looking at two suns. And she's like, I see two suns too. And then it disappeared like a few minutes later, and we were just sitting there going, yeah, we both saw two suns. Let's go in and shop. I need some carrots. Like, just totally normal. Like, that's our reality now. That 10 years ago, I would have been committed. I was like, I saw two suns. And now it's like, yeah, I see them. Let's go get some carrots. Like, it's like,
listen, my husband and I,
it's so ridiculous.
Do you see the rainbows and the clouds over there? It just appeared. They're like, yeah, I saw it. So what do you want for dinner?
Oh, man. It's in your chat. It looks like they're asking.
So I asked in the chat, does anyone have questions for you? So I'm going to go. Robert was the first one to come in. It was like, Tarrin, what was your awakening moment?
Awakening moment. Wow, that's a tough one, because I am not a spiritual person. I used to not be, and then I kind of had a grace fall on me at some point where I felt it for once at a retreat for just like 10 minutes, but it was real. I felt like this upload of information, like, hey, get ready. And then about 5 years later, I had a kind of more of a near-death experience, and I got very, very sick. And when I came out on the other end of that, is when I was like, man, I got to be a better person. I got to change what I'm doing. And that is when all of a sudden stuff started happening. So I had to kind of like hit rock bottom, like almost like an alcoholic does, sort of, where you destroy your life and then you get back up and you're like, okay, I want to be a better person. And then as I started moving towards being, I hate to say a better person, because I know that's your path and what I'm supposed to be learning and all that crap, but I still look at it as good and bad, and I know I shouldn't, but it's easier to explain.
It's a concept we all can fundamentally grasp. So
yeah, that's it. As I'm moving towards more who a positive direction, it really started happening. And then I got in the Mandela effect around 2016, when everybody else kind of was waking up around like October, and then the community around me has really made me feel comfortable enough to go ahead and tell them what I'm seeing. I'm telling, what I'm really thinking, because I would never have done that. You got to understand it. You destroy your practice as soon as you come out like this. Mm-hmm. You're that crazy doctor on the internet that nobody's going to go to who thinks anatomy's different, So like taking that leap of faith and crossing that line of, okay, I'm going to have to blow up my old life if I go this direction. That was a big leap of faith, but it's been hugely spiritually enlightening, and my community has been really wonderful. Like they've embraced me and kept me going. And like, if I had not got the community love, I can't imagine going through this by myself like some people. Ugh, that'd have been brutal.
So I have my own fuckers. Our unfuckers are the same thing.
Yeah, they're super loyal.
And well, it's not even about loyal. It's
they love you, man. They come over and talk all kinds of stuff about you. They love you.
They tell a lot of lies too. They exaggerate. It's the fact that when I made the Unfuckers group, which was October 2015 on Facebook, it's because we were starting to have conversations on shows, and people wanted to talk, but they were on Facebook. And you don't want your mother-in-law to see you make a comment how you're feeling
No.
today. You don't want your cousin, you don't want your boss, etc. And that's when I said, we need a space where we can actually have conversations that are open, where we can spill our fucking guts and talk about what we see, hear, experience, what our thoughts are, what we feel, without worrying about our father-in-law, our next door neighbor, etc., seeing it. And that's why I created the Unfuckers group on Facebook. And it's a secret group, so it can never appear on someone's wall. It'll never, the comments, people can't see it. Even if they know it exists, they can't find it unless they get an invitation to come in. It was, even though everyone jokes about it, it's a secret group, except that I talk about it every week. So it's not that secret. It's just secret from, your parents. And that's what we had. It was this coming together of people of just having the ability, for a lot of people, having this ability to just spill their fucking guts and say, I feel, this is my emotional status today. My emotional status today is I am so fucked up. I'm crying my eyeballs out. I don't know why. It's not like my mother died, my cat died, my dog ran away. I have no reason and I can't stop crying. And then everyone else can come together and support them and share their experiences. That's part of the reason of why I've got such a huge draw to create community. And that's one of the reasons why I created rts.earth. We need each other right now. On the biggest freaking level ever, if ever there was a moment in time where we all need each other, this is it. And whether it's even just on the internet like this, having people you can talk to. I mean, if you can meet up in physicality and you find out that one of your people you chat with in the UU group happens to live just 12 blocks away, yay, bonus points, right? But it's about having people you can share these experiences with, because we learn from each other. And I tell you, I have learned so much from the Unfuckers group, amazing people, because they just come out and they talk about these feelings and we support each other. And that's what community is about. That's what family is about. That really is what it's all about. So I get it.
I dig it, man, because this is the first time I've really had a positive community. I've been in communities before, but they're always tearing each other apart. And this has been a different animal. So, and it's cool because I'm going around finding other communities. They're finding me, and Marlena told me all about you guys and Burma and a couple others. And every UU person I meet's awesome. They're like, yeah, come on in, man. So I dig your group a lot. I love them. And I'm hoping that, we get to a point where we can all support each other and be friends and hang out and, and I mean, it's already happening, but I'm just saying we're definitely, the world doesn't have to be this small anymore because I don't even have physical friends anymore. It's crazy. I can't go out. I'm so far beyond any sort of normal conversation that everything bores me unless you're going to talk about something. I don't give a damn what football team or NASCAR, or whatever's going on. I don't care. And so I can't function in society and get much out of those kind of interactions. So my buddy's like, hey, come on over for my, Super Bowl party. It's nah, I'm good. We gotta, there's a cool show being streamed. It's we're gonna hang out in the room and I'm gonna talk to people that get me. It's so hard because especially, you live in Malta where there's probably a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of people that get it. And I live, New Hampshire in the mountains where there's a few people maybe, but no one I've met in real life, Yeah. So it's tough. If we didn't have this community online, man, this would just suck big time. I would not explore my spirituality. I would not feel comfortable. I wouldn't be growing like I am.
Yeah.
We need each other.
We do. And like I say, and it's there's a lot of bullshit that goes on. And there's a lot of community, like you said, I've been involved in communities for 25 years because of the work that I did in with pregnancy and childbirth and all, and informed parenting stuff. It amazes me the amount of backstabbing and the amount of, like you say, attacking. You don't believe what I believe, therefore you're a ditch pig and I'm never talking to you again. And even in the awakened communities, like this is what even in so-called groups of people and the attacks, and it's like, we so need to get beyond this. This is the time where we need to come together and just put aside the fucking differences and the belief structures of whatever shape and size and form they take. And start
because people are still going through it. Yeah. I mean, like in our group, people will argue it. I have to step in like a father and be like, you guys are enlightened people. Work this out. This is a chance to be compassionate and act with love and figure out how to be nice to each other. If we can't do it in this group, what the hell kind of hope does the world have? You have to like come to brass tacks sometimes. But it's crazy to me that, we're all still purging and still going through it. And I lose my shit every once in a while, and I get it,
Yeah, I try to toe the neutrality line in the Unfuckers group and assume that everyone are grown-ups and that they can all handle their own little issues. And occasionally, especially people that I know really, really well in the Unfuckers group, and I will send them a little, harsh much? Did you not eat your Wheaties this morning? Maybe you want to go in there and take another look at what you just posted. But for the most part, like I try to keep the neutral stuff, but I will absolutely, these guys have seen me lose my shit on multiple occasions and just been like, that's it, you're out, you're out. It doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen. I should send you a copy of my rules. Because my rules for the Unfuckers group are rather hysterical. And rule number 10 changes almost every week, although I haven't done that in
come over and teach me. I would love it, because we have one rule: just don't be a dick, and that's it. And that unfortunately doesn't work.
Yeah, you
you're gonna have to improve me.
Yeah,
I'm all anarchy over there.
No, you know what? It's a learning curve, and we all have bad fucking days. We all have bad fucking days where all of a sudden the shit is real, and you react, and we lash out at people. But the greater community has to understand that we all have those days and not take offense and be there to be and understand that, whoa, seriously, who pissed in your Wheaties this morning? It's just this morning. And it doesn't mean that tomorrow morning's not going to be a completely different morning, right? And that's what it is about supporting each other, right? It doesn't mean that you put up with people's bullshit. And because if we have someone in the group who is a bullshitter, then they get called out because you start tracking it, right? And you start going, okay, this person is continuously saying this kind of stuff, then now we're going to call them on it, right? But community's everything. And I don't understand how, like I said, that's why I built rts.earth.
I respect that.
Communities together so that they can reach out to each other and help each other,
Yeah, well, we'll back you up whatever play you make. Oh, for sure. I'm sure the people on my world will come on over and hang out.
Well, I'm still looking at your what's it called?
The Discord chat, which is a terrible name.
Thank you. And Marlena, tell me what the name of that chat is.
That's fun, and I appreciate you coming over and hanging out. And any of your listeners that want to come over and hang out with us, you're definitely welcome. Like I said, you were saying in your other thing that I think people go through all this trouble to build a community, and then they're super protective. They're like, well, I can't share my community with someone. They'll all leave me and go to become UU people. It's to me, it's like, man, let's share everything, and people go where they want. Why can't we go to all these communities? It's not like something's going on in mine 24 hours a day. There's always cool stuff going on.
This is it. We're all over the world. We all have people all over the world. And the whole thing is maybe in the Unfuckers group, there isn't someone who's in South London. They're all in South London. They're all by themselves in that group. And all of a sudden they reach out into your group and they find, oh my God, so-and-so who's in Dr. Lupo's group, they're fucking 3 blocks away from me. Oh my God. Well, this is how communities reach out to each other, right? And
and time shifts. You're going to have shows when I don't have shows, and I'll be like, hey, everybody, check out her show. She's going live. Boom. You know, I if you've ever seen my show, I support a lot of other channels that have like 400 subscribers, 600 subscribers. You know, I've got almost 50,000 subscribers, and it's like I'm sitting here talking. You know, if they say something cool and they, you know, I want to help them, and I wish somebody had reached out to me. And I don't feel threatened by that. I'm like, hell yeah, man, go check out their channel. You know, I only have so many stories up. Go watch someone else's when you're done. And to me,
it's like kindred spirit.
It's crazy not to work together.
Tarrin, you and I are going to be doing a lot of work together in the future.
Yay!
we think a lot of ways alike. Yeah,
you got to lift others up that are on the path, man.
Exactly.
You got to. We got to work together.
No, I agree. And I don't understand the continuous.
I think it's that fear thing that, you know, you try to purge out of your life. It's like, I built this baby and I put all this work into it, and I'm too scared that someone's going to just come in and steal it, because, you know, communities fall apart all the time and they fracture, they blow up, and some person will stage a coup and take 10 people with them and disappear and be pissed off. And that's the evolution. You know, you guess what? You know, you're working with a bunch of people who are very strongly opinionated. They're going to have their own issues, and they need to go and do their own thing and grow, and that's okay, because new people come in when they leave, and that's it. You know, and I would love to support your community. You just let me know. Every person I've run into that's a UU is like super cool. So if your whole community's like that, I'm down. They're all cool.
Yeah, well, you met some of the exceptional ones. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like I said, we all have days too, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, there's days where I've lost my crap, I'm telling you. But, you know, again, though, I can't imagine. There's some YouTubers and stuff that, like you said, are so scared that they don't want to talk or be part of a community at all. I can't imagine going through this alone. Like, the amount of hate mail I get and comments, and, you know, especially being because I'm not like, I respect that you keep stuff private and it's not open. I'm an open funnel. I'm like, here's your introduction. Come on in and be part of the team. So we get all kinds of bad stuff that comes in sometimes. We got to filter it out. But I think that's my job, is to be out there throwing the big net. And I that's just what I've taken on. Maybe one day I will shift to where I'm like, okay, I'm done. We're gonna go to a nice private group where everybody's cool, you know. But
this is it. Like, so
that's my path right now.
We've had certain shows that have always been public. When we did the one, Lisa Harrison and I did the One People show, it was always a public. It was never like a paid event. It was always public. It's on YouTube. Join in, right? And that's the same thing. This show is always public. I do the unfucking discussion, because that's just the unfuckers getting together, open mics, fucking talk. And that is kept to the unfuckers, because we talk personal shit. Someone comes out and says, I'm having a serious issue at the moment. I don't put it on my YouTube, because it's personal shit. And it's something that we keep together, because our unfuckers are a little community. But some of them can't. We're all on different time zones. So we record it and it goes into the community so they can hear what we've been talking about this week or twice, whatever, so that everyone can kind of be on the same page of what's going on. That's one thing I love about Zoom, is it gives us the ability to just say, hey, I got nothing fucking to do tonight and I can't sleep. Who wants to chat? Cool, everyone, come on, let's talk. And throw a wine up and away you go. So
is that the timeout?
No, well, we actually are.
I was like, wow, Belle. Yeah, and I want to invite people that if they want to chat and they want to do audio or whatever, come on over to our Discord if something's not going on here. And same if you're my listeners, go on over and check out the UU.
Well,
I would love
about seeing if we can take a page of the Discord. I don't particularly like the chat that we've got right now on RTS Earth, the live chat, is kind of meh. It's just meh.
Well,
maybe
what I can say is if
put it right up on the website.
Yeah.
So, and then we can reach out to groups. Like,
if you create your own Discord, we could at least help your members come in, get their mics working, do all that stuff behind the scenes. It's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. And once they have their account going, man, they can bounce back to as many groups as they want. So, if you don't feel like waiting for weeks for that to happen, just come over, make your account, hang out, and then when she makes her account, go jump over, and I'm sure a bunch of us will go over and join your group. Yeah. But at least, honestly, just getting your people set up is I don't think you understand, it's kind of a big ordeal. So come on and let us help you with that a little.
Yeah, we may have to be calling over to you guys going, can you give us a live shot where we can teach us all how to fucking
we'll do that.
You should have seen me last night going, I can't find the unmute button. Folks, where's the unmute button?
Once you use it for a minute or two. But Zoom has its own learning curve. I mean, it's just a learning curve. But at least let us help you get set up with an account, and then you can come party with Danny when she finally sets her stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it, folks. 2 hours has freaking flown by again. Seriously, 2 hours, it's gone.
It goes really fast.
Yeah,
good conversation.
Tarrin's going to be coming back, and we got more conversations. Yeah, definitely. Discord, it's discordapp.com, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll drop a link right in your chat right now.
And I'll make sure that with this archive recording goes out, that link is in there so people can go in and check it out.
Yeah, that's cool. Either both of us dropped links. They both work. The thing about Discord is they do self-destruct after a while, so I dropped a link that is more permanent. It'll be up for so anyway, that'll be in there. I appreciate you doing that. Come say hi to us. Also, please check out my channel. Can I plug something? I'm on this Tuesday, USA. That would be the May 16th. May 16th, I'm hosting Miss Toy is her name, Adela Toy, and she is going to teach us how to photograph nature spirits. She's coming on with some of her photos. She's got some pretty cool photos, man. It's a neat topic. So you want to learn how to better shoot nature spirits. I think this is going to be a really unusual show. It's not something I've ever really done before, but this will be a fun guest. And that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, that's a New York time for your international guests.
Which is the 16th, because I'm now in the 15th, but we just went over midnight, so it's not real.
So... Oh, I'm sorry. That's that would be the 16th. So I'm a little mixed up on the time zones, but I'm talking about USA New York time, the 16th. Yeah. Just look for my channel at 8 o'clock.
And you do your show every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is the sit down, throw it out, let's dig deep.
Roundtable
conversations.
And we do that too. I mean, I'll probably bring some people in on the Tuesday. I do shows Tuesdays and Thursdays. And some Saturdays, depending, and I make stories in between. So sometimes I'm pretty busy over there. Just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But there's always a Thursday show. Most of the time there's a Tuesday show. And Saturdays for people that just work and can't get there. But all my stuff's recorded. It's all free up there.
Yeah, and people like me who just are not in your time zone to be able to make it at 2 o'clock in the morning, my time on Thursday.
Yeah. We can do that. We can. You want to come back, man? I'll set up a special time for you.
Yeah.
Even though you were kind of at a weird time, we got a pretty good amount of views already, so it was all right. For a strange time I never broadcast on, we had almost 1,000 people going in and out of the stream that night. Yeah. So that's pretty good for a Saturday afternoon, unannounced.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't have time to promote your show.
Well, it has been a fucking blast, Tarrin.
Yeah, fun.
Have lots
Yay.
to happen in the future. I can so see it. But that's it for us. We're now 4 minutes overtime and all the rest of it. Tarrin, just hang on 2 seconds. Unfuck it Wednesday night for the Unfuckers, and same bat time, same bat channel. And next Sunday will be the Unfuckers gathering here in Malta. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get everyone around the couch and somehow figure out cameras and mics so we can.
You got to stream that.
Sitting down. And
yeah, I want to see that. Stream that, man.
Oh, yeah.
At least do
a
real life round table. That'd be cool.
A real life round table. It'll be one fuck of a large round table, let me tell you. Maybe we'll have it'll be like a real life round floor, maybe. Yeah. Okay, guys.
You got to give.
That's it for all of us. Thanks, Tarrin. Thanks, guys. And
bye, Danny. Thank you.
Soon.
Be nice. Support each other. Be nice to your cat.